Welcome to FMA Talk Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim, and this is my co-host.
Hey, it's BG Heiser. Welcome, everyone.
Hope everyone is doing well. I'm seeing if it's too late to do something here. Okay. No, too late.
Yeah.
I started doing something after I got the show going here. So I'm going to go out of this. Can't edit what I wanted to edit. But I got most of it in place, so that's all that matters. Oh, yeah, okay. Or is it too late? I think it's too late either way. No, delay, 360, enabled settings. Okay, well, it is what it is. Not a big deal. So, how was your weekend, sir?
Good. How about yours?
Really good. So I did so I'm on the board of directors for our Chamber of Commerce, and I did we had a vendor show. So it's a yearly event. So while I was there, I actually had a table there, a booth, and made some contacts, networked with some other businesses, a lot of good things happening. And then while I was there, I was looking through some of my social media while I had a moment or two. And lo and behold, I saw that Edward Anthony Scissorhands was in town for an MMA fight downtown Buffalo at Riverworks, that bar that we've on the water.
Right.
So I'm like, are you in town? Yeah, I'm going to go home tomorrow being Sunday. So it was about 1 or 2 o'clock. I saw, all right, I'm going to try to come down. So I got things done. Initially I'd planned on relaxing poolside. I just wanted, I had no intention of going out. It was, usually, I was tired after the trade show because I was on my feet the whole day, and talking to people, yada yada yada. And then I'm like, okay, Ed's in town. All right, I'm gonna see if I can make it down. And I got stuff done, and I went. I saw people from multiple schools that I knew. Some of these guys had fighters. One of the commentators used to train out of my school periodically, which is cool. He was good friends with Primo, would come in and work out together.
Okay.
Jeff, Captain Caveman Dens, So he was. I said, "Oh, Jeff! Oh my God! Hey, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Come to watch the event, man." I hate when you say this stuff about BJJ, but it's hilarious as all hell. I'm like, so we're talking about having him on the show, and then I wrote, and then of course Edward and I hung out for a bit. Then his fighter was getting a little antsy. I was giving him some business advice, and like one of the people came out and like, okay, hey, you got to do you. I'll be here. So he had 2 fighters, one lost, one won, and they did good. Although one evidently got a cracked rib, had to go to the hospital, so I didn't get to say goodbye to him. And I stayed for the entire night, and I wrote an article. I posted it today, and I talked about, supporting things, and I was heading people off ahead of time. I go, I know you're going to say, I thought you bust BJJ's chops all the time in MMA. I'm like, yeah, I make comments for creative, to hopefully inspire creative thinking. I'm not against MMA and stuff like that. I mean, I watched UFCs back in the day with everybody, and I've gone to a few fight cards, and actually one of my black belts, Primo, became an EFC champion, which was owned by the UFC at one time,
Hmm.
and I've had a couple cage fighters out of my club. I wasn't a big fan of them back then because the promoters didn't take good care of their fighters.
Hmm.
But I was watching them all the time, and I'm all for it, So I talked about, hey, listen, we got to support each other. We got to do this, that, and the other thing. And the reason being is that, well, a rising tide raises all ships. How do we get better if we're not promoting each other? So so that was good. I had fun with that, and now there's a few other things where I got work, so I don't want to talk too much I don't want to give up some things that'll be coming down the pike. But I'm definitely talking to Jeff, the commentator, to listen. We should get the word out. I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't have had another 30 to 50 people from local martial arts schools, but I found out about it through a guy's post that lives 4 hours away. So I had no time to prep for this, and I just went down. And the thing here is this: I went down by myself. I mean, normally if I was going to do something like this, I'd have friends and stuff. So I got cage side seats, and it was for F4 fighting, and it was a good thing, and I had a blast, and I sat by a school that I knew, but they didn't stay for the whole thing. So I mean, I was there all by myself and supporting something, supporting my friends, and supporting the community, and I think we need to help each other more on a bigger scheme, and there's plenty of ways to help, and you don't always have to show up to things. Like there's some events I have no interest in being part of.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I can't help get the word out.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that we can do. It's like, well, here's a Taekwondo tournament. Well, I don't do Taekwondo. Doesn't mean I can't help judge. Doesn't mean I can't see if they need any help in something else, or anything, Hey, listen, is it an open tournament? Yeah, well, I've got a few Taekwondo friends. If you want, I can spread the word. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's so much you can do. So, and those who know me know I actually do that kind of stuff. But all right. But yeah, that was this weekend. It was good, and I'm looking for more stuff coming down the pike. So before we jump into today's topic, is there anything you want to talk about before we kick it in?
No, I'm not tracking anything. It actually didn't feel too good this weekend, so my brain's coming back out of that, so that's good.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So let's get into this. So today's topic is controversial as usual. And I think there's part of this thing, I think there's some wordsmithing going on by some people. And I think this is really easy to understand. But in some ways, I just don't understand where the disconnect is. So the thing is Modern Arnis pure? That's the question. And I think it's based on a perception, and I don't think we're all, whether people are choosing to be different. Hey, Antonio, how you doing?
Hey, Antonio, welcome back.
And I don't know if people are choosing not to get it, or they just can't. I don't know why they can't wrap their brains on certain things, but I mean, it could just be having the right person explain it, or maybe just it doesn't suit the narrative, or whatever. So Modern Arnis as a whole was taught in the Philippines as a standalone program. There's schools that have done it in the States. Not a lot. The core of it's always been the cross trainers. Hey, how we doing?
Hey, Mike.
Well, that's Lyman.
Yeah, but I like the other one.
Well, and he signed up for instructors camp today.
Oh, excellent. Good.
Or yesterday. It came across my feed. So
I'll see you there.
Hey, Lyman, on Saturday, they're doing a 2-hour BJJ section. Now, it's not going to take away time from the camp. It's all part of the camp. If you want to do it, you'll need a jiu-jitsu gi or a heavy-duty gi, or you can sit out, and that's fine too. Just letting you know ahead of time before, as people show up. I want to give them as much heads up beforehand. All right, and hey, where are you from, sir? Niranjan. How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. Niranjan. Yeah, maybe.
Niranjan. I might have gotten it right. Hold on. Okay, so actually, we had a topic. Neither one of us could remember what it was.
Happens.
So
it happens.
this topic is about Modern Arnis being pure, and I don't see this being I don't see where the problem is, the disconnect. There definitely seems to be one, but I was told by multiple people that Arnis isn't pure. And I'm like, well, that's subjective, I think. I think things evolve. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I probably, ultimately no art is pure or it's pure relative to a number of things. Could be who's teaching it, what branch of lineage, those kinds of things. But I think everybody puts a little bit of themselves into it. I think everybody has their own experiences. I know when we were talking about this before, my what I looked at when I heard, or what I took it to be when you were talking about, or when you're talking about people describing you as doing, pure in terms of what Remy would do, was just that. Was ideally, in my mind, for me, what makes the Modern Arnis I'm interested in is what Remy was teaching, what Remy was doing, what Remy evolved, what Remy taught, put together, what he synthesized, what he made, and that changed over time. All of that, to me, is, for lack of a better word, and I don't like this term, pure Modern Arnis, and it has to come from Remy. Remy did put a bunch of things together. He saw new things. He created new things. He adapted. But anything that came from Remy, that's what I mean by the term that some people use for that. And that's what I'm interested in, right? So, I have luckily spent some years with him and got to see that firsthand. And that's exactly what I want. I want it to be as close to what he was doing. And I can get that from other people, right? They may have seen something that I didn't see. That's great. And the more we talk and we interact, the better we can get a sense for that. But that's sort of where I'm coming from. Maybe that didn't answer your question. I'm not sure.
No, so, and as of late, there's been a few podcasts coming up and people talking about, hey, Terrell.
Hey, Jim Terrell.
You're still in the Philippines?
It's like he's living there now.
How long are you over there for? So how this term popped up in my nomenclature was simple. It was actually your teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in 1991. I did a seminar in Connecticut for Eric Alexander. So, and there were programs literally around the corner from him in Modern Arnis. There's a whole bunch of them. You had Sifu Lee Lowry, which was one town over.
Mm-hmm.
You had Richard Roy, which may have been an hour away. You had like let's see, Mr. Therian, who's been on our show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that were within an hour of him that he could choose from, and you'll leave in September. Okay.
Wow.
That's what happens when you're retired.
That's yep.
So I Eric asked me to go out to the club and said, teach, and they go like, Eric, you've got all these people here. And I said, and the name I had thrown out there to him, I'm like, you got Richard Roy, who's only like an hour away. Why do you want me out here when you can pull from him? And it's like, and his comment to me was, you know what, Tim, I want it as pure as possible. I go, Richard Roy, as good as he is, he's putting all this Tai Chi in there, and he doesn't separate the Tai Chi from that. And he goes, and Remy didn't put the Tai Chi in there. It was something that his student put in. And this is where my whole comment about, I think there's the headbutting between what Remy taught, the art within your arters versus what Remy taught. Okay, let me see here. I was chatting with James De La Cruz, and he was saying his system, because is a spin-off of it. Yep.
And you can see that, and more power to Jerry for the spin he's putting in there for his stuff, his
and the fact that he acknowledges it.
Yep.
So I am not going to say that I don't evolve things. Okay. I'm not going to say, I mean, I've said that I've do my roots. I look at the roots of the art. I've gone to a deeper dive. But what I will say is that, and if you aren't with me on a regular basis, you really don't have anywhere where you can make comments about, because obviously, Ty, we've been to a lot of different places together, and you get to see the programs firsthand. You get to see and ask questions and stuff. So, you can always ask more information for clarification of what I'm saying and stuff of that nature. Now, I teach Prasis Arnis as an overall. Hey, how you doing, Ball? Or John Ball. Actually, I'm going to be in Vegas, I think, in January. For a week, if I'm not mistaken. So, but when I teach Kombatan, I teach, Kombatan. When I teach modern, I teach modern. The good thing is, like, in my Prasis, all of Modern Arnis is in my Prasis program. But I also infuse it with Balintuak and my Kombatan, and I'll go off and do, maybe some Bondo creeps in, and this, that, and the other thing, and and that's why I give it a different name. No problem. Hey, John, do you have a club out there, or maybe I can visit while I'm out there?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'll be there for a week doing tactical stuff. So it'd be nice to do something in my off time. So I get to hit a bunch of officers in my work time. And when I'm done, I get to hit a bunch of civilians. But, I'm very particular what I teach and how I do it, because I want to give credit where credit is due. Teaching the Kombatan and calling it Remy's art is not doing that, is not giving Ernesto credit for his contributions to martial arts, and it's giving Remy credit for something he didn't do. I remember Shelley, I don't know if it was a post or he popped in on one of our shows. Shelley Millsbog made the comment, why are all Modernist people trying to steal Ernesto's Kombatan? I'm like, whoa. First of all, it's not us. It's a bunch of people who are doing Kombatan and claiming that it's Modern Arnis. There's a difference. The American Modern Arnis practitioners as a whole have very little, if any, exposure to Kombatan.
Usually.
I was one of the few. What's the difference between Modern Arnis that was taught in the Philippines before Remy left and what he taught in America? Is there some signature? Well, right off the bat, you said left. At the end, Remy developed this whole left versus right stuff. I would, I'll
We
let
have,
you go.
I was gonna
I'll
say
let you go.
we've talked about this for a lot, but yeah, I would sum it up in a few things. The He had some basic Kane versus Kane sparring, very basic stuff that was I would call it pre toppy toppy. I know you call it the toppy toppy, but what became left versus right and some of all the inserts, the fancy inserts that remind people of balloon talk, all that stuff that was developed in the States. The empty hand forms developed in the States. The small circle jiu-jitsu, all the small frame Dumog type things that he snuck in and did all the time. That was evolved in the States because of his friendship with Wally. That's three things right off the bat.
Here's what I'm going to say. He had the same alphabet, but he evolved so much after that time. I mean, the Philippines missed a quarter of a century of evolution with Remy at the helm. They went in different directions, and if they,
and he had only, let's see. So he left. So it actually had more time with him evolving in the States than it did before he left the Philippines. If I do my math right in my head real fast.
Well, he created Modern Arnis in 1957.
Right.
So 3 years gets it to 60. He came over in 74-ish.
Right.
So that's 14 years.
Right. So imagine what
3,
he as founder has evolved for another 25 years. That's what we grew.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not saying anything negative about the things in the Philippines. But that evolution, and the Filipinos weren't part of it. So they had let's put it this way. If we're going to say math, they had the basics: addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and then Remy started doing algebra, calc,
geometry
in the States. Or he taught the Filipinos how to spell words. He taught them an alphabet, spelling words, and writing sentences and paragraphs. And then over here, he taught us how to write books and novels. So, or that's where he evolved to. There's a lot of material missing in the Philippines. But it comes, it's like a sapling versus a tree. They're the same, but look at the Philippines. I look at that being the sapling. But
what also helps if you know where you're coming from, right? So like those, you spend time with Remy and you watched him even just over a few years evolve, tweak, re-emphasize, de-emphasize, grow, and explore in different directions. And that whole process was ongoing until the very end. And you saw that in real time. And so a lot of it's not necessarily the alphabet not changing, but like the font would change, right. Maybe you got cursive, maybe you got some, the way things would come about, even though it's recognizable. And we'd see that, right? So we saw GM Riddell, one of our favorite guys over there. What he evolved in from the modern that he got from Remy before he left was great stuff. And you could see the connection. You could see he did a faithful evolution. It was really cool.
So the answer to this is no. Remy didn't promote anyone to 10th degree.
That's right.
And he actually changed the grading system. So in the Philippines, it was 1st through 6th, or 1st through 10th.
Yep.
In the States, it was black first. And so I'm a 6th degree black belt through Remy. I have 7 black belt diplomas. Right. So if we compare it to apples, if we want to compare us to the Filipinos rank wise, the Americans really had whatever degree that Remy gave them. You need to do a +1. And that was because of a typo on the state. And it wasn't a junior belt. What happened is someone translated, they did black belt, the title black belt 1st through 10th, and they included the title of black belt as a level, unknowing, so they actually listed 11 different black belts. That was not done in the Philippines that way. The Philippines, you want to pick first.
I remember seeing that for the first time, going, what's going on here? That seems very strange. It made sense that it was a typo after I figured it out. But yeah, those were, so when I was second for the longest time, Lakan Dalawa, that was, third level of black. I had 3 black certificates. Yeah.
So I don't know what, so Matt Jones. Because they don't think that the holes are missing.
That's right.
Well, they took care of it themselves.
That too. Yep.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. This is the headache, and people don't understand. So I'll give an example. We were down in Texas, and Mark Lynn, who is a student of both Remy and Ernesto, we were having a conversation, and he asked me the question. So you're trying, we were talking about the difference of the arts. I go, were you trying to say that Ernesto can't teach Modern Arnis? I go, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because Modern Arnis is okay. So first of all, here's the problem with people in Modern Arnis. For the longest time, all 3 brothers. Okay, Remy created Modern Arnis in 1957. His brothers were 10 or 11 years old. So let's get realistic here. They did not create the art. Now, they did help him evolve over time, because as they grew up, they were his training partners, stuff happened. And, as Roger Solar was telling me, like, well, Ernesto was the computer. Really? What do you do? Or because you're talking about, I was trying to put things in better context with him. And he's like, well, yeah, because Remy would do something. Here, remember this. Oh, so he was the hard drive. He wasn't creating anything. He was just storing the information that Remy was creating. So, here, file this for me. Remy, like I said, his brothers were 10 or 11-year-olds when they created the art. So there's no question where the source material for Modern Arnis comes from. Remy. Well, at least as far as the family goes. Remy taught his 2 younger brothers. Okay, we know that happened too. For the longest time, all 3 brothers used the same name, but Ernesto was already developing his own expression. Modern Arnis is not a double stick art. There are a couple double stick drills, but not combative material. Whereas Ernesto's specialty is double stick fighting, and he had a program for that, and unfortunately, everything was going under the banner of Modern Arnis. So if you were learning Modern Arnis from Ernesto, there's a good chance you weren't learning Remy's art, because Modern Arnis was Remy's personal expression. So when Mark made that comment to me, I'm like, no, he can't teach it. He could have taught it at one time, and he can teach you the fundamentals of that art. But Remy left in the 70s, which means he has none of the small circle influence. None. And Remy, stick jitsu. Okay.
Right.
Okay. The only 2 people I knew that could, okay. And I'm not saying they're not out there. Listen to me closely. I'm not saying they're not out there. The only 2 people that I came across that were better lockers than Remy was Wally J and Ron Van Browning. Those are the only 2 people that I felt hands-on that got a hold of me that could lock at that same level as Remy. And it was Wally head and shoulders above everybody. Ron was good, but he also could hit you. That was painful. That was really painful. He used to be a boxer too. So, and maybe his locks were good because I was trying to gasp for air. I don't know. It could have been it. So, so the arts were different, and eventually the names were changed accordingly, but they probably weren't changed when they should have been changed. So you got a lot of people in Europe thinking they're doing Modern Arnis when they were doing Combatant the whole time. Then Ernesto changed the name, and everyone switched over, and that's where they're at that. So, but Ernesto wasn't around. I mean, his own brother wasn't around for that stuff. So how would how would this the rest of the black belts know
Right.
all those evolutions?
It's not like we had video or internet or anything that would keep keep things going.
See, and that's the other thing when we're talking about stuff, people are thinking about today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember butting heads with somebody that we know thinks I was trying to bust his chops or his father's chops, not because of being mean. I was trying to put things in perspective. Well, how could this happen? We didn't have the internet. How could that happen? We didn't have Facebook because we didn't have the internet. There were no smartphones. There wasn't Google Translate. There wasn't Babbel.
Mm-hmm.
Most people had no clue what Remy was saying because the Filipino language was an obscure dialect for us. You can get exposure. You can get good exposure to Japanese and some form of Chinese dialect. But and there's 100 different dialects of Filipino language. So, so there's a lot of different things there. So, yeah, but in their mind, there's no holes to fill because, well, Tennessee, I don't know of any schools in Tennessee. I'll see if I can find out there, Tim. But if you're interested, I do have an online university as well as virtual classes that you can log into. I have group classes physically. If that's something you're interested in, datutim@gmail.com. We can do things from there. Okay. That is how
Interesting.
That is how Rodell's belt system is. You are a Lacan black belt and then Lacan Isa. Now, you may have modeled that after Remy. I don't know. But that's not how Remy did it in the Philippines. So I don't know where that came out. I know Ernesto goes right to first degree as well. Now, I think so here we go. Who was the first to wear a uniform, Ty, that we know of?
To wear, is it Dean?
No, for Filipinos.
First to wear a uniform.
Yeah.
Well, there was regular clothes you're going to wear, and then there was.
Who was the first to develop uniforms?
Oh, I think it was Remy.
Yep. So people, Remy did a uniform. He did a belting system. He did forms. What everyone else did, they did a uniform. They did a belting system. They did forms. It was on the verge of extinction. Remy put these things in play. So it wouldn't shock me to find out that someone, or and someone may have done it as a junior belt on their own. Okay, here we go. I always appreciate learning about Modern Arnis. Thanks for your dedication and willingness to share your experiences. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know how I ended up here, but pretty interesting. All right, Jordan.
Appreciate it, actually.
We do this weekly most of the time. No, that's wrong. It's not the old sport karate uniform. It became the old sport karate uniform. So here, I'm going to look something up. You can talk to about
Okay.
You talk to this.
Yeah, we go to the next. Yeah, there we go. It was Modern Arnis Dumog. So in the generic term of Dumog being grappling or manipulation of joints or balance or those kinds of things, yes. I know some people want to think of Dumog as a Filipino art on its own, and that would be a harder question, I think. But yeah, especially Modern Arnis in the States is known for a lot of stick jitsu, a lot of traps, a lot of two-lock, which is the unbalancing pushes, as well as all the small joint manipulation that Remy kind of blended from what his close friendship with Wally exposed, and then he put his spin on. Yeah, so I'd say yes, but I caution just with the idea. What do you mean by that? If it's a whole separate art, and you're thinking of something like that, then it doesn't subsume that, but it does those aspects of things in Remy's particular way.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment on that.
Sure.
I have yet to find any authentic Dumog in my travels.
Right.
What seems to be the narrative now is people will use okay, so I teach Filipino martial arts. I have a full-time school. I have 4 themes in my class. Mano mano, that means all you're striking with your hands, feet, knees, and elbows. We have años, our forms practice. Sandata, our weapon training. And then the one I left out is Duma, which is all of our locks controls. Our locks and controls, mostly, probably 95% plus, is from small circle or enhanced by small circle jiu-jitsu, which was a derivative of Danzanryu jiu-jitsu. I have, as far as I can tell, the things that are the closest that you would find to it, doing arm drag type movements, pushes and pulls. I've always been told it is very like a poor man's judo, as it's been. That's not my words. That's somebody else's words. Mm-hmm. And then Kimberly, she was in class tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she was one of 2 people who weren't black belts in class.
Yeah, okay. I was for the Duma question. I always looked at it as a descriptive term. Hey, you're doing these kinds of things. Oh yeah, that's what we're doing.
I think I use it as a generic term for locks and controls.
Right.
And I'm very upfront when I talk to my people. I go, "This is not Duma. We are just this is the category of material."
No, and I would say we're kind of famous for that because of how much it ended up being emphasized here in the States.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Terrell. This is for you, buddy. So this is I'm just looking for this. Okay, this is the original uniform, as close as I can find. So this was a white shirt, as you can see.
Right.
These are red pants.
Right.
The belt is on the side. Now, I'll give you the breakdown that I was given. So I'm going to talk about what the original thing I was told. Originally, I was told the belt is on the side, and we would wear it on the right-hand side as righties, because the sword would be on our left side, and we would draw it out instead of wearing it in the middle, where the tails of our belt might get tied up. That was the original one. So I'm going to do the later version I was told right now. So as per what I was told, the uniform is to pay homage to the farmers, the people who fed the nation. So white shirt is what and red pants is what they would wear in the fields. White shirt to keep the heat off you, red pants because there's a lot of clay in the ground that would stay in the pants. Now, the reason why
if you didn't have red pants to begin with, they'd be red.
Yeah. So how the secondary story I got, which makes sense, why the knot is on the side versus in the front where the strings would be, is that they would tie their pants up with rope. If you constantly bend over in your belly, it keeps jabbing your belly. Like a mechanic, they'd turn the knot to the side, so a mechanic would do it so it wouldn't scratch up the car they were working on. But in this case, allegedly, it was supposed to be there so as they're bending over in the fields planting rice, it's not constantly digging into their belly. Now, Dieter brought up one time saying it was the Katapunans, that Remy said that was the case. I don't know how factual that is, but who are the Katapunans anyways? The working class of the Philippines. So I never heard that story, but it is a way we both could be right on that.
Right. Same.
And there's a lot of things based on how much time someone had around Remy, I don't know why they would I would prioritize my questions. I didn't prioritize uniforms. It came up over time. Eventually, what happened is Remy was bought a uniform. Oh, there we go. Right back. Oh, here we go. So this is from Century Martial Arts. It is a sport karate uniform. So he's wearing a two-tone. For the most part, it was all black with red. Let me see if I can find. Here we go. Once again. Here they are in the Philippines.
With the white t-shirts and the red pants. Yep, that was the first one over there.
There's Remy right there. And it was a low, so this is, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's his daughter. Maybe both of these are his daughter. So I have a file just on Remy.
Nice.
Let me see if I can find.
But he didn't wear that Century one until he got over here to the States, right?
Yeah, that was in the 80s.
Yep. I thought it was even after a while. Yep.
Yeah. Let me see here. There it is. There's a better look. So then after Remy, so Bruce Chutnick tells the story that he bought Remy the first one.
Mm.
Then the Filipinos saw it in the islands, and guess what they did? They all made them. But I mean, we've been in the Philippines, and people are wearing full-blown karate gis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're easy to get a hold of.
Yep.
Remy wasn't centric to a certain color, so here he is again with the red and white in the stream there. So through the DAV, Dieter's organization, you have to be students wear red pants with the black stripes, and only the gurus wear the black with the red stripes. Remy never had that here with the States. That's something that may have came over from Combatant, because I do know there's different uniforms based on what belt you are. Well, look at that. There's Janice and Kevin.
Nice.
I think that's Mickey. Okay. And there's Michael Bates. It's over at the Lanzas in New Jersey. There's Ted Buat with Remy. Both of my teachers. So, yep, that is my Remy Prices folder. Oh, can't leave the studio. Stop sharing. Okay. So, Terrell, I hope that answered things for you. Let me get caught up here.
Terrell just jumped ahead. That's what it was.
Okay.
I get you, Terrell.
Okay. Other holes. Holy hell! Say bullshit against. Tim, LOL. I'm trying. I'm trying to tell the BJ that don't understand it. I always knew it was part of it. Okay. Of it. Yep. Mr. O'Grady, how we doing? I want to see you tomorrow during day class. He wasn't in night class tonight. I got a modified night schedule. If anyone's in town going to visit, I'm only here the next 2 weeks on evening classes. I'm only in Mondays and Wednesdays. We still do the full daytime class, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Cora and Ty, are you planning on being at Hanshi Montoya's event next year?
Ideally, hopefully. I got to figure out now that I'm retired. I gotta plan a little better, right? I don't have an income that is going to be help slide things around. So the intent would be, yes, I always want to make those, but I got to see how to do that.
Okay. I always hated those sport karate uniforms. I looked like a circus gorilla. He didn't look like a gorilla, more like the little. my grandmother used to always bust my chops. Like, you look like the little organ grinder guy.
Right,
the guy,
the
monkey. Yeah. Oh, you're lucky you're my grandmother, and you're tough. Yeah, you didn't mess with my grandma. Her parents were directly off the boat from Germany. It was. Okay, here we go. Did Remy show everything? If not, how can you tell that more? So Remy, so I was around Remy more than anyone that I know of. The thing here is this, and this is the thing. I teach what Remy taught. I do have my prices so I can evolve and stuff like that. And I can blend things together so I don't, go in things. But when it comes to my Kuntao, I do Kuntao. When it does my Sikran, I do Sikran. My Balintwak, I do my Balintwak. The same thing with our Modern, the Combatant, all the other stuff I do. Okay, got it. Then there's Tim Rue. Then there's Let's Play. And it's like, you don't know what's coming out. And it could be anything, And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's actually Marshall, here's this, when people talk about system, they throw the words system and style around a lot. To me, they're two different things. System is the methodology of training. Style is your swagger, your interpretation, your expression. So style to me is artistic and subjective to the person. System, what is your system? Okay, we are working math. We are working fractions today. We are working algebra tomorrow. We're doing calculus the week after that. There is the system out behind that. Remy had a codified system that evolved over time. I stuck to that as much as I can. And when I'm teaching just Remy's art, and admittedly, I do more than just Remy's art, but when I'm teaching Remy's art, I don't blend it together willy-nilly with all these other things and say, well, that's what Remy wanted. No, I teach what Remy taught. And I teach it as pure, if you like that word or not, as I could do it. I still do my block check counter. I still do my polys. I was doing those tonight in class. I still do. We have a different order of the angles of attack, but they're still the same angles of attack. So I changed the delivery system, not the methodology. We've codified things better. We've definitely developed the nomenclature, because they're really the one that goes like this. There's too much of that stuff and not having an actual name. But the thing here is, the problem I bump into with certain people of the art within your art. Well, I did an article with Mike, who wrote the article, Modern Arnis and Art Within Your Art. He was doing a comparison. He wasn't trying to say you should blend these arts together. He was trying to get people on board to do Modern Arnis. That was the intent of the article. He himself does Modern Arnis as a standalone program. The Filipinos did the Modern Arnis as a standalone program. If you did the art enough, there would not be a need to blend it with other systems. I'm going to keep that note. I'm just going to look at this real here. Hello from Detroit. Is there important in training barefoot, FMA? No. In the Philippines, they don't train. I train barefoot in my dojo because I have tatami mats. When I'm going to be on the floor during a training camp all day long, I have indoor shoes that I wear. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to, it wasn't done barefoot. When we go to the Philippines, they're training in the parks. No one's going barefoot. What do you think about that there, Ty?
I don't think it's, I think it's whatever shoes you're going to be, whatever footwear or not that you are going to function normally, you should be able to do your stuff with that on, just like any other art. But I do want to go back to what Lyman said. I think one of the other aspects that I've noticed, and probably Lyman saw this too, was that Remy was releasing stuff while he was working on it. So I don't think he held anything back. It's whether or not people were ready to see it, or whether it was codified in what Remy's internal curriculum was or not when it got out. But I want to say that he was very, he shared and showed lots and lots of stuff, right? And so that's why some of us saw things that others didn't, and that's fine, which is why we should all be working together, by the way. But
true.
But I think he was out there so much, and he was so giving, and he was giving while he was honing or developing things. I remember when he was, I first releasing in Texas, we would help, we would work it while he would then release it to Texas or other situations. I know Tim has some stories like that too, but I want to say that he was very, very open to sharing. He didn't hold anything back. So the parts that he didn't show were either we were not ready for. So yes, how do we know what those are? Got it. But we can't practice what we don't know, right? So that's why again, why I don't like the term pure, because it in my idea is what Remy was doing, what he taught, what he developed, what he showed, what he did, what he evolved, and that whole process of evolution. He shared that process with us. That was also part of his art in my mind. So if you're doing all of that, that's the best that one can hope for. And that would be the touchstone. If you can trace it back, to being true to what Remy was doing, what he was teaching and showing, true to that, then that is, lack of a better word, again, I don't like it, pure, but in my mind, is it true to what Remy was doing? And was it true to what Remy was teaching? Was it true to what Remy saw as his art?
Yeah. Well, and case in point, we've been talking to some people as of late, and they've been doing some podcasts and making comments about this where there's no interaction. It's more of a dialogue, a monologue versus a dialogue. Remy would encourage you to work everything together because he also knew you weren't doing the art as a standalone system.
Mm-hmm.
If you went to his seminars, he taught his art. He didn't teach somebody else's art. He taught his art.
Mm-hmm.
And, and this is actually going down a different path. It's not the path I wanted to go down, Well, okay. So Brian Zielinski was on with Paulo recently. They talked about it. He goes, how ingenious is Remy had? Think about this. Think about how you look at, and this is a shopping thing compared to what Remy was doing. Amazon is in a bunch of stores, so you can do, you drop off your stuff like to Kohl's. You get the wrong thing, you don't like it, you go to Kohl's. So they have a relationship with these companies. And he goes, that's what Remy did. Before all this stuff started, he had a relationship with all these systems. He didn't have a relationship with all these systems. He developed a relationship with all these individuals that were in other systems. Mm-hmm. So this was not a dialed in thing in Isshinryu or karate or taekwondo or fill in the blanks. The other thing too is, so that way he thinks, we should the comment was about piggybacking on another system, getting in all these schools. When are we going to be able to stand on our own? COVID happened. A third of all schools closed permanently. Listen to that. A third of all schools closed permanently. Besides me having a full-time, so me, Mike and May Williams, Apollo Ladra. These are three people that I know of that have full-time Filipino martial arts schools. There's not many more than that in the States. Okay. I don't think there's more than 20 schools full-time for Filipino martial arts. The rest of these programs are piggybacking on something else. What happens when that something else goes away? I know what it's like to teach out of a gym and have it close in the middle of the night on you. Okay. COVID happened. I talked to some of the people and some of the Filipino styles that I've done. Oh yeah, we have an event coming up. Where are we going to get the support? Well, we got people here. Yeah, good. Okay, should we go out visit? How long have they, what are their numbers since COVID? Oh, they haven't opened back up since COVID. Guess what? You have nobody there. Just if they didn't open up after COVID, it's gone. And you can talk all you want. Yeah, you have people there, but knowing someone and having them train are two different things. And I know it sounds rough and cynical, but I'm talking realist stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's no one there, how do you have things happen? So, my issue is that the art has it has everything you need. It's just most people don't commit to the training to learn the entire art, because when you're doing the art, okay, Ty, so what does the art within your art mean?
To me, it's you're doing an art already, and now you're seeing connections that it has with what Remy was showing you, and you're making those connections for you, and maybe even strengthening them a lot. But you're seeing your art through those eyes and getting a flavor for what Remy did through those eyes of your own original art, kind of like that. That's sort of covers it.
So you're getting a spice, right?
Yeah, and getting some extra material. Maybe you didn't have any weapons material, so this gives you a chunk of weapons material that you wouldn't otherwise have, but you're still doing your art.
Okay, so we're not doing it necessarily in the vein that Remy taught it that way.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, right? Remy didn't teach anybody else's art. He taught his art. What he was doing was all of his own synthesis, and he kept doing that. He taught that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I do jiu-jitsu, Brazilian. I've done a lot of Japanese through Remy, actually. And I hung around a lot with Wally J. Not enough to claim any rank, but I've hung around enough along Wally J. I easily have the material enough to be a black belt in a Japanese system of jiu-jitsu. I'm very specific how I'm saying that. Japanese system of jiu-jitsu. I'm only a blue belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now, adding a few things to what I'm doing does not make me a representative of what they taught. The art within yarders, and this is not what I wanted today's show to be, is enhancing your primary system without compromising the integrity of that base system. So you're still doing it the same way. You're not changing what you're doing, but you're doing the material, but you might not necessarily do it in the vein that it was meant to be done. You might not have the right body mechanics because you're doing the body mechanics of maybe mechanics might be too strong, but you're doing it in a kung fu flavor or a taekwondo flavor, and it might be effective, but not necessarily a good representation of what the art was supposed to be.
I got a great example of that. We were just playing around, and we developed some staff forms versions of the stork tick forms, me and Abel, right? And so, of course, it's going to have a lot of influence from Kung Fu. We showed him to Remy. He liked it. He said, keep doing that, keep practicing it. But I also noticed he didn't say that that's Modern Arnis. He just said, hey, you are actually finding how my art blends with yours, and you should keep exploring that because it'll help both, your progression as a martial artist. He made people better martial artists.
Yeah. So when I talk about purity of what we're doing, it's not saying that the art is pure. What I'm doing is not blending Remy's teachings with other things. Right. And, people say, oh, come on, the art's not pure. I go, well, maybe the question should be, what do you mean by pure?
I think that should be the question. But so if you're going to have a pedantic response to somebody's choice of words, you should actually point it out and call it out and say, hey, look, I have a problem with that because I don't know if we're talking about the same things, and actually narrow that down, as opposed to going off half-cocked and then thinking, all sorts of bad
that's
stuff.
It. What do you mean by that? What, okay.
Right.
So, Tim, what do you mean pure? Because I don't see it that way. Okay. Because right. Remy put all the stuff there. I go, I understand what you're saying. But I don't add to Remy's blend. I perpetuate Remy's blend. And there's a difference.
Right.
When you make a mixed drink, this is the recipe. You don't put extra stuff in there because then it becomes a different drink. I think I understand in some cases people don't want to compromise their situation and things. So they're going to defend things because if they don't, it may go against their it may go against what's the word I'm thinking of? I had it was on my tip of my tongue. I was going to do it. It doesn't go with their paradigm with things. It's it doesn't work for their agenda. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. Remy, I'm the first to say Remy had a hybrid system. What do I talk about this? This is like a Filipino Jeet Kune Do. There's two major differences. One, it predates Jeet Kune Do. That's an important one to know, to note. Two, and more importantly, Remy's focus wasn't fighting, where I think Jeet Kune Do is all about performance fighting, where Remy was teaching self-defense concepts. Because you don't need... Remy saw people People didn't need to know how to stick fight. People need to know how to defend themselves against armed and unarmed assailants.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent very little time in stick dueling scenarios in our seminars. That doesn't mean the material wasn't there. I was fighting other people all the time with what Remy taught me, and I was rocking just as good as they were. Because it really boils down to your fundamentals. You just need to apply your fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, to me, like I said, this whole idea about pure is staying true to what Remy was teaching. You know, I said some people's agenda, that was the word it wasn't popping in my head. They don't want to compromise their agenda with certain things, you know. Me, you know, I'm looking at things in the big scheme of things, and I saw what Remy taught, and I'm trying not to add things that weren't there when I'm teaching his art. And if I'm doing me, my personal expression versus the methodology, I'll sit there going, and like, hey, that doesn't look like anything Remy taught. You're right, because it isn't.
Right. Because
there's the difference between personal expression and the system versus the swagger.
Mm-hmm.
You're smiling, so I think something chimed in there with you a little.
No, I'm just agreeing. That's my thoughts exactly as well.
Yeah. So, Modern Arnis is not pure in this. Remy kept evolving, and every time listen, what is your culture? Well, the question ends up, when are we talking?
Right.
What was your culture today? What was your culture a year ago? What was the culture of your people 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago? Culture evolves, and culture is developed by learning experiences. And when two cultures come in contact with each other, there's ripple effects in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the martial arts. Every martial art evolves one way or another.
Yep.
But our evolution was based on Remy Praces. And I'm not saying that we are staying frozen in time.
Right.
But here's the thing. And okay, math is still math. You can talk about the new math. It's still the same old math. It's all the basic freaking math. If you take addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, you take those four elements, you can do any kind of math out there. Algebra, calculus, geometry, abstract math as Jeff teaches. It's math, just like letters in the alphabet. You learn your alphabet, you can spell any freaking word out there, you know, but it's still, you got those 26 letters, you know, so, you know, what's there? Okay, let me get caught up over here. Just wanted to know, is Guru a senior student around me? There was a connection.
Abundio Bayet.
He is. He's actually he actually shared with me some photos, where he was he ran one of Remy's charters, or his father ran the charter, or something like that. Okay. But
I knew there was a connection. I wasn't
sure.
sure.
There's a connection, but I'm not sure where it's at.
Right.
You know, because he's got his own system. Mm-hmm. And he's had his own system as long as I've known him, and I've known him while Remy was still alive. And I wonder if any of these people in the Philippines joined Remy's movement but still kept their systems.
Mm.
You know, I mean, the thing here, there's a lot of stuff that happens, and sometimes you join a team. Mm-hmm. You know, so I don't know. I cannot give an educated. Well, I mean, if we're talking, I mean, he may have been a student at one time, but by the time I met him, he wasn't, he wasn't a student. I mean, because he talked about seeing Remy's in the 70s, and he talked about him seeing him in the 90s and how much he changed, but he never has talked about. I mean, as much as we've talked together, he's really never talked about having a student-teacher relationship with Remy. That's probably the best way to do it. Which muscle part of your body improves your skill?
I got a quick answer.
That one?
That's the most important one, yes. The other one is just like in general, right? When you want to develop a skill, what do you have to do? You have to use it and challenge it. Do that. Use your skills a lot, challenge them a lot, and they will get better. If you don't challenge them, they're not going to get better. If you don't use them, they're not going to get better. Simple, I know, stupid, I know, but you use your brain to power that, and then your skills will get better. The other thing is also get feedback, because you could also be in a echo chamber with your own self. I'm doing this perfectly, but maybe you're not.
Okay. Is Sayak Kali a complete art or just a knife fighting? I'm not the person to ask that question, but I will say this: their motto used to be all blade all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So some of their people would show some things, but I don't know how much that was SIAC versus other systems they did on their own or whatever. So I can't tell you one way or another.
Do we know anybody who had only ever trained, basically was a native SIAC person, only ever trained SIAC? As far as I knew, it's everybody that had, they had done something else and they ended up there and they went full SIAC. That's fine, but they brought something with them.
Yeah, I mean, even Tuhan Chris,
right?
He was a student of Remy and Leo's, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you're correct. He has his own system. Yes, well, I know he has his own system. I just don't know where, when, why, how. There's a lot of interesting factors with all that. Let's just put it that way. Lots of questions, and you know what? He's actually going to be in Buffalo in October. But to be quite frank with everybody, lately my mindset has been, if it's not what I'm doing, I don't really care anymore. Because I'm looking at a situation now where I think we're under the gun to get more people to the art. We need to replenish our numbers. The gene pool has been severely compromised. And for those who are saying I've never seen it this strong before, I'm willing to bet you that they weren't out and about when Remy was alive. Because it's all about scale. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've traveled as much with Remy as I did, it was mind blowing on how much reach he had back then without the internet, which is the craziest thing. Print ads, and he had more people. Yeah, it was crazy numbers. All right, let me look at this. What's Lyman got for us? So you're saying just use the concepts, and you will be doing Modern Arnis. There are specific things that Remy taught. Okay. Material-wise.
Yeah.
And doing those and doing them in the spirit of the art are two different things. I could do a hard version of the Tai Chi forms that Tai does. That doesn't mean I'm doing Tai Chi.
Right.
It is a It is not a black and white answer, unfortunately. Oh, what do you think on that?
No, I think that's a fair answer. But it's the concepts. Sure, everything that he taught you, use that in the right spirit and do it and show it and perform it, material wise, in enough of the right ways. Then sure it could be. But just because you are going through the motions doesn't mean you're doing something. I think is what you're
doing it right.
Or doing it right. So you have to. I think there's a caveat there, right? That's why I balked a little bit at the idea of you just use the concepts. No, that means you could be new Modern Arnis just by reading a book about Modern Arnis. And I learned all the concepts. I'm going to do this thing, and that was Modern Arnis. That's crazy. So I don't know where you're going with that, Lyman, but I think there's more to it than that, and it's the way it's done. Everybody, Lyman's felt him too. You feel the professor, you feel Remy, and how he performed things, and there's a character of that performance. There's the small motions that go with it. There's the timing. There's the material itself that you're going to be true to. And so, evolution needs to happen. But I think without Remy to guide us, without that experience, I think, I am very, very careful of what evolution I do. And a lot of times I just caveat it by saying, hey, this is the way I take that, and this is where I'm going with it. But here's where it started from. Here's what I'm showing you, and this is what Remy did, and what he explained about it and how it felt. And here's some input that I have on it. You may or may not want to go with, but I'm very, very careful, probably too careful about that.
Yeah. And listen, and Lyman's one of us, so he's not. I know it's not an I gotcha moment because he's friends of ours, and and he'll be at the instructors camp soon. So these are good questions. Okay. So, and this is one of the things here too is this is from an old show that Ty and I did.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And people said it was one of our best shows. So right here, this is my Canva file. What is Modern Arnis? Okay, so here are the 4 categories. Mano mano, dumag, años, and sandata. Open hand combatives, punching, kicking, trapping. Dumag, locks, controls, and throws. Años, the forms. Sandata, all of your weapon categories. Okay. So if we do mano mano, we can do our punches, kicks, knees, elbows, trapping hands, and then trapping hands decadina. So one step versus the drill. Single Stonewally application, single Stonewally empty hand applications, the seizing drill, Stonewally boxing, applications of forms. There's plenty of material in the forms all by itself.
And he emphasized that.
And a lot of times, if you saw what he was doing, his seminars were all about the forms.
Yep.
We did a seminar in Buffalo, and the first one, my church auditorium, it was rated for 300 people. We had about 115, 120 people showed up. Biggest Remy Price's seminar that I knew of in the States, where he was the only one teaching. It could have been bigger, but it was the biggest one I knew of. That room was rated for martial arts. It was rated for people sitting down.
Right.
So we couldn't swing sticks. So about an hour in, I'm going, Remy, what, Tim? When are we going to go to the second form? What are you talking about? You've been doing all the applications of Año Isa, the first form. Tim, do not tell anyone. Shut the fuck up. Okay, so then we do the Dumag section. We have our arm bar, center lock, backwards throw, single lock, standing center lock, side by side throw, finger locks, thumb locks, walk away, mobility throw, or as we call it, rotary throw, spinning backwards throw, squat lock, which was a kind of a fingerprint of his, a trademark lock move that he did. The lock flow drill, which there was also a finger lock flow drill. Go figure.
Yep.
Then we do the años. We had 12 of them. 8 are open hand, and then there's 4 sticks. And I put the word baston in front of this, even though it's probably not the proper way to say it. Hand form 1. Okay, this is form 1. And then when we did stick form 1, we still call it form 1. But it's the Año Isa form 1. And I'm like, no, baston Año Isa, like I said, people know what I'm saying. It's not necessarily the right way to do it. Okay, then let's do the sandata. Here we go. We've got the 12 angles of attack with control and with follow through. We have block check counter, and the evolution of that is obstruction removal. The extension of the block check counter would be the striking styles. Figure 8, bandiabana, rumpida, and abanicos. The up and down was a specialty move that really would be in unique scenarios.
Right.
From there, there's the disarms, the traditional 12. Then you go back and apply them to different angles of attack. Then you do the open hand versus the stick and find out which ones are not designed to be stick. Then we have the police, and there's a whole section of police, which is the passing drill.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the Crusada flow drill. Remy would call it the flow drill. I'd put the word Crusada in there. We do a single and double weapons. So Remy would do it with a single stick. He would do a stick and dagger, stuff of that nature. He would have us do twirling, single carenzas, the technical term for that. But Remy used to always just say, "You'll do the twirling." And then people thought it was a baton and they were majorettes in a band. Okay, whatever. Sombrada drill, otherwise known as 6-count drill. But what the community calls is sombrada, so I use that term for it. Here's the 6-count, and then the thrusting version is a 10-count drill, because if you add a poke, if you add one attack to one, if you add an attack, that means there's 2 moves per side. One attack, one defense, and then the other side gets it. So by adding one move, it ends up 4 extra steps in there. So there's a 6 in the 10 count. Now we have, wait for it, tappy tappy. We have the right on right, which is based off of single Sonwali, solo baston, butting, stuff like that. Then we go into the intermediate level, which is the left versus right tappy tappy, or right versus left as well as we do. And then the advanced is the seguidas, which is the simplified version of the Balintwak seguidas, where one person feeds angles of attack and the other person blocks. Now, these feeds are not numerical order. They're done randomly. This is stuff that Remy did. It eventually become the 1, 3, 5, 12 drill.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. The 1, 4. Well, I never even used that term, but now that alone, how much material is that, Ty?
A lot of material, certainly, not with all of the things, you said branches on lots of those, with all of the things and variations.
Police, there's so much material just in police alone.
Yep. We'd spend almost most of a camp on police stuff sometimes.
Yeah. So there's plenty of things here to be training in Modern Arnis.
Yep.
Now, if I'm doing it as a secondary system, how much can I put into doing all that material? See, and that's it. I mean, if most people don't know enough about Remy's art because they didn't dedicate themselves to Remy's art. What they did was they cross-trained and they enhanced it and they kept around him because they realized he was more of a skills specialist. He was very good at leveling up your skill by teaching his art and showing how to integrate. Now, but he had a standalone system. And listen, I'm telling you this right now. He was moving towards the art by itself. Now, I'm going to give you some people you can reference with this, but here's the deal. Well, you can't talk to George Mazek, but he passed away. He had a curriculum he wrote up for Remy, and that was the red book out there that was out there. I know Lori, Remy's girlfriend, was talking to me about stuff, and Remy wanted her to rewrite George's work. And she didn't feel comfortable doing that. And I said, well, I already have a curriculum in place. You just tell Remy. We started talking about it. We'll talk about this. And I was in the process of taking over that job and just using the curriculum I already had. And I would just do is take out all the extras that I put in there over years, because I would do extra Sonwalis here and extra this, there, and that other thing, and I'm like, all right, because there was the art and then what I did. And I actually had a different name for what I taught in my school. I said, Modern Arnis is the core, but I'm doing more than is like, hey, we do Modern Arnis Plus or we do Modern Arnis Plus Plus. That sounds like a language, doesn't it?
Then you'll have Modern Arnis Sharp.
There we go. All right, here we go. Any experiences with Steve Tarani? Heard of him. I know who he is. No personal ones. He got me into this after years of other stuff. Well, that's good. Cool, I know people who've worked with him and stuff. His thing was karambit, and when it comes to the weapon, I really can't say much about him. I just don't have that experience, so I don't recall that I've ever met him. Okay, you cannot just learn a style from a book. You are certainly a definite source for Modern Arnis. Well, thank you. That being said, it is hard not to bring in other material that you've learned from other systems. Oh, that's
True.
fine. But when you have a curriculum that's written, we can stay true to that curriculum. And here's the thing. We have multiple curriculums. That's why we have the Praces Arnis, because I can teach all the extra stuff I want to go with it or do deep dives and stuff like this. Modern Arnis is cool because there's enough material to be a standalone system, but still have plenty of room in there to do enrichment programs. So if you want to do a whole modular course on staff work, you could bring that in. If you want to do a whole course on ground grappling, you could bring that in. The thing here is we need to be able to identify where everything comes from. Because we'll sit there and you're going from one school to another, and let's say one school is very punch kick centric, and another school is maybe BJJ centric. And we put in both styles, put in extra stuff that's not there, or both schools put in extra stuff that's not there. Knowing what the curriculum is, that's why I like the idea of the Kukiwan, which has a global standard minimum requirements for Taekwondo. So everyone knows what that baseline is. I don't think that that's a hard thing for us to work on. I think we can easily sit down. I mean, I just outlined it. I mean, and you don't even need to go back and okay, if you want to go with what Dan Anderson said, and he goes, oh, well, we didn't have a curriculum. We had more of a shopping list. Okay, fine. You want to call it a shopping list? That's fine. Let's all make sure we have the same shopping list. Let's make sure we all have the same minimum shopping list. Because, I mean, I remember when when the comment came up and Brian made the comment of, well, I have to talk to my people. I'm like, all right, do you? You claim to be you're going around walking as a 10th degree black belt in the art because of your recognition from the Philippines, whatever the hell that means. You can't tell me off the top of your head what the requirements of the curriculum are. I mean, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. I mean, I didn't need that. I didn't need that presentation to tell you off the top of my head what the curriculum is. I've had the conversation with Terrell and all these others, and there's some questions about people who claim to be modern and they're not. And I'm like, okay, well, here, let me ask you these things. You can tell me if you do it or not. And it was real easy for me to break out a list of things they should have. So it's not like it's not a big deal. This is for having any experience in the art. It should be easy to know what is required. Or am I overthinking things?
Or maybe other people are. Again, I don't know what some people, what people may be thinking while they're saying stuff, and it doesn't quite come out right, because there's things going on in people's heads we don't know, but it does seem odd.
Yeah. So listen, Modern Arnis is a hybrid system with a lot of things that blend into it. Okay, there's no question about that. When I talk about purity of teaching Remy's art, I talk about staying true to the things that he designed, his synthesis, not my synthesis, his synthesis.
And his way of performing it and doing it and applying it.
So putting in Balintawak groupings is not Modern Arnis. Right. Putting in Doce Pares, they've got an Abednego sparring program. That's not Modern Arnis. Putting in pushing hands series. Remy did do a little pushing hands, but if you want to do the whole thing of Chisao in there, that's not Modern Arnis. Putting a whole ground game together for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, once again, it's not Modern Arnis. The cool thing about Modern Arnis, though, is it can integrate with all of those arts seamlessly. So I found that because I do Modern Arnis and the emphasis learning the techniques and the progressions and the emphasis of the delivery system helps you understand movement more than anything else. And I go to seminars and I cannot um think of a time where I was lost because of all the things that Remy taught me, showed me how to do what I'm doing. I see someone can do a seminar in front of me. I can see this and like you do whatever material. I'm like, oh, I know this is okay. That's that piece. There's like 3 or 4 pieces I don't know what it is, but after that's taught to me, it's usually okay. Boom, done, got it. So, and being able to analyze what I see in front of me, that's all of Remy's stuff. But yeah. So but it's I well, I just got a note that somebody I knew passed away. Yeah, but evidently yeah, well maybe it was real. Wow, okay. Yeah. Somebody I knew has passed away. Okay. That's okay. Well. Okay. Well, I'm not going to say any more about that. Hard. That's a hard thing to just find out in the middle of a show.
Yep. Well, we're probably at the end anyway. I don't see.
Yeah. So listen. So I understand when we talk about. I understand that sometimes people don't get where I'm coming from. But the first thing when someone says something you don't necessarily agree with, maybe the first thing would be like, what do you mean by that?
Sure.
And I'll get to you and John Ball in just a minute here. But I personally think with all this stuff that we're talking about, we start talking about the purity of the art and all these things, or as the term that I'm using, I don't see why people don't understand where I'm coming from, because I'm fairly open about what I mean by it. We talk about Remy's synthesis. I've been very consistent with that, and I don't say that we can't evolve, because that's not what I'm saying. But you can have evolution and stay true to the teachings with evolution, because it's like spelling. You just, if there's a new word in the language out there, okay, well, you just learn how to spell that new word. No big deal, all good. But like I said, at the end of the day, our language is still the language. Yeah. That threw me off a little.
We should maybe get to John's question. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think he was a professor in college, but I think, well, did he teach in K through 12, or did he teach in, I don't think he taught in colleges.
I always understood that he taught, the pre-college, in pre-college schools. But I will say that, the term professor was used for teachers across the board over there back in the Philippines, right, where he came from. So he was a professor, but it was not a college professor.
No, not that I know of.
Not that I know of. I mean, it could well have been. He was responsible for getting the Modern Arnis into the whole school systems, and we're talking the K through 12 equivalent. But presumably it probably got it into some colleges as well, but I don't think he was a staff on those. I could be wrong, but not to my knowledge. And also I will say that I know he taught it at pre-college stuff, and that alone, the way they use terms over there, that was professor. You can think of maestro as a piano teacher or those kinds of things. It's just that's the term they used. So some things don't transfer really well or obvious, right? So
yeah, you got to remember with all the different cultures out there, maestro is used a lot in Spanish culture, and that could be the guy who's your plumber, that could be the guy who is your mechanic. Oh, maestro, help me, and just a generic term for someone who's an expert on something that you're not.
Yep.
An expert might even be a strong word. So, not sure exactly. He had a connection to the school education system because he was teaching in there. But no, I don't think he was a full college professor in that aspect. Okay, so is Modern Arnis pure? Well, it is an eclectic system that Professor Price has taught. It can be blended with many things, but he also had his own system that he taught that was codified by 3 books and 25 videos. He was not a master of cross training. He was a master of Modern Arnis, a Filipino martial art designed for self-defense. Many of the people over here were already in systems for 10, 20, 30 years and weren't going to change, but they would definitely add they saw the value. Systems of martial arts did not have relationships with Modern Arnis. Individuals in other martial arts schools would meet professor and go, wow, I need to train with this guy. And most people that I know that touched hands with him, they were sold day one,
Yep.
And then, then they got what they wanted out of it, whatever that happened to be.
Right.
I
got a silly way to summarize it, right? Modern Arnis is pure Remy.
Yeah. So when I talk about I teach it pure, that's probably lack of a better term. And I'll tell you, we're always looking for terms. We're looking for more descriptors all the time. Unfortunately, people are very sloppy with their language. And I'm OCD because I've had years and years of decades of people trying to tear apart everything I say. So I try to be very specific about things and constantly inventing terms up. One of my favorite is RPCs, which is not role player character or random. It is a Remy Price is certified. Like one of the things we talk about is who certified you, not who your teacher was. So in Modern Arnis, well, actually, to get a black belt in Modern Arnis while Remy Price was alive, you had to test in front of Remy because, as he told me and others, Ty was one of these others. We got the same story over and over again. No one had the authority to promote the black belt other than he did. Mm-hmm. He still grew it to be very huge just with him doing all those promotions.
He got around.
But you had to test in front of him.
Yep.
So my black belts, my students became certified black belts. So I sat there, I took them to camp and said, my guys are ready. And then he gave them the seal of approval if he thought they passed the test. Mm-hmm. They weren't his students. They were my students with his seal approval. And that's where some people got twisted. We actually almost got, we were at an event, somebody else's event, and an argument started brewing. Finally had to sit there and say, all right, we need to change the topic. Yes, language is sloppy. Or no, language isn't sloppy.
People are
sloppy.
That's when they're not being other things.
Yeah. So personally, when I make these comments, every time that Ty and I've talked about this, he's always known where I'm coming from on this. This is not because we've talked about the art. We have very similar feelings about it. Just I use different words to express myself than others. That's all. Boom. Closer to the root, the more pure the system. It goes back to the same thing, and I think the thing here is we use words that relate to us, and there may be better descriptors out there, but until we find them, certain things, the thing here that's different is Remy's art evolved so much quicker than others. Because the thing here is this: Remy was the founder and changed on the fly as he felt that it was needed. I'm thinking this founder of every art had the same situations, but when the founder dies, then people have a tendency of locking the art down and turning into a traditional martial art. That's not what we're doing. My whole thing is to keep true to Remy's teachings, because if you have the formulas, then you can do anything with them. Because at the end of the day, it's still your angles of attack. It's still your block check counter. It's still your police. It's still the tappy. It's still these core elements that I can tell you. I can give you the whole list off the top of my head. I can probably remember 90% of it off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. All right. Because I know what I stay true to Remy's teachings. And I don't have to do all these other arts to do Remy's teachings. So when it comes to that, I stay true to his teachings. How's that, Ty? Is that I didn't use the word pure.
Yeah, no, it works. It's just it's the whole idea of then you can say, well, is it conceptually, or is it you're talking about freezing it? And no, I think the discussion, you've explained yourself, right? We know what you mean. I hope anybody. But right, anytime you boil down a complicated concept like this, in a few words, it's going to be lacking no matter what. So it's really, you got to listen to the conversation first.
And then there's people going to have their own agenda.
That too.
Because and
or biases, right? You may not have an agenda, but you could be biased just because the way you're thinking about who said it, or the way you're thinking about what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's a big thing that we're dealing with on a regular basis, because some people have their own agenda, and it may interfere with their agenda. And once again, I'm the bad cop between the two of us. I'm the one that speaks my mind more. Although Ty's been speaking up a lot more, a little less PC than he has been in the past, which I think is pretty cool when seeing Ty get pissed off and things. Because he's usually more the cool, calm, collected, and I'm like, ah! And a couple things, we had a little role reversal, which is awesome. But yeah, so listen, here's the thing. You listen to what I said. People should be able to figure out stuff from what I'm saying. It shouldn't be a crazy thing to be able to understand where I'm coming from on this, because right off the bat, I'm saying that this is an eclectic system. So, but I'm, just like if you, okay, and this will be the last thing. Look at Larry Petit. So look at Jeet Kune Do. You had a guy named Larry Petit who passed away a few years back. He only wanted to teach Jeet Kune Do the way he was taught it. So he tried it. This is what he learned from this year to this year. And he said, this is all I'm going to teach, because I'm going to teach what Bruce taught me, not to take away from what anyone else did, but this is the Jeet Kune Do that I know, and I will continue to teach that Jeet Kune Do. And you need to have those purists, even though the guys, or the traditionalists, as much as we can, so they can say where they came from. And because we need to, there's no problem with evolution, but it's nice to see where things came from. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing was, going back to the Philippines, when I went there on my second trip, I had a crew with me. We're hanging out with Rodell's people. They go, hey, to Dylan was there. And I go, like, Dylan, can you show us the forms? Like, you want me to teach you the forms? No. So the DOS forms are the Modern Arnis form. At least the first form is not the DOS form. It's Remy Pracis's Modern Arnis form Anuisa. So can you show it to me? And you watch them do it, and they did it very staccato, very karate-esque, because Well, in the Philippines, they compete in tournaments, and at the time, they had to compete against karate because there weren't separate things. Now, the Filipino martial arts are very flamboyant, flashy, and they flow very well. More, I think, in the spirit. Actually, I thought when it came to the forms, I always felt that I did the forms more Filipino than the Filipinos did because I watched them and they were more karate-esque. But it made sense why it was because it came from another era. So, all right. And then, of course, what do you say? Perfect! Exclamation point. Yes. All right. I'll come up with the show for next week. This one, I forgot completely what the show is. We aren't going to do Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. And there's going to be a couple. This was the 17th show of the season
already. Okay.
Well, you've been a little hit and miss.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I was moving and stuff. Yes.
I was hoping that I would do 20 shows this year because I took a lot of time off. Last year we did over 25 shows.
Wow.
So I think we can do 25 this year the way we're going, but we'll do one next week. That'll be 18. Then we'll take a week or two off, because of the holiday or whatever. And, Columbus Day weekend, we won't do one that weekend because it's Columbus Day weekend, holiday weekend, every day's a holiday weekend for you now. So,
yep.
All right. So, listen, if you're in the Gettysburg area, PG Ty is out that way. He also has a training group down in Fairfax, Virginia. Make sure you check that out. September 19th, 20th, and 21st. We will be doing our instructor development camp here in Buffalo, New York, or a suburb of West Seneca, that is. It's a good time. We're limiting to 24 people. It is a great, great experience. Pool will still be open. Don't know if anyone's going to swim in it. Today was the first cool day.
It's nice out to get a day.
I'm looking for I got to call. We just had the pool open. It was like 2 weeks ago. Like, really? I go, because it hadn't been open in about 10 years and we were trying to find someone to open it. And no one wanted to come by. And we finally got somebody. It's functional. It's doing really well. Just trying to find a pool cover. So I think Anchor makes those ones that like elephants can walk on. So that's the kind we have. I got to see if I'm going to call them tomorrow to see if they have our pattern, because usually they keep it because they're one of those high-end companies. And what happens is when you sell evidently it's dialed into your address because people may sell the house, but the pool doesn't go with them. So
Sure.
So I'm not sure when. I mean, of course, that needs to be made and stuff like that. So I don't think we're getting our pool covered till October. So instructor camp, we're going to have a little social at the house. And then we'll do some, hopefully the weather's fine. We'll maybe do some swimming. I got the hot tub, stuff of that nature. We also will be doing our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu course. So Coach Jerry will be teaching the first of our apprenticeship courses. So anyone who's planning on attending that, you don't have to do that session. It's a 2-hour session. It is not taking any time away from camp. We're going to make it up elsewhere. If you want it, you need to have a fairly sturdy gi because we'll be constantly pulling things. And I just released my own brand of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gis.
Very good. Very good. I don't know how much I'll be doing it, but I do know that I really love watching Professor Jerry teach, and I learn something just by watching him every time.
Yeah. Well, he was just I was training with him today, and then he was fixing my body. He's really good at fixing people's bodies.
Yep.
Both Ty and I are kind of messed up from different things, and his shoulders were all messed up. He looked like a mutant. He looked like Quasimodo for a little bit there. Like, oh my God, you guys are playing a trick on me. No. Holy shit. And Jerry got us both. I mean, it was like, and next thing you know, wow, is that the way the body is? No, I'm not supposed to function like this. This is like comfortable.
Right.
So we'll come up with a topic for next week. As always, this is a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone.
And we still got more stuff going on. We have more things to say. And if you got any ideas stuff you'd like to see us address, by all means, send it in. But I think this is pretty good for an impromptu event. So, all right. This is Datu Tim.
And PG Ty. Thanks, everyone.
Stay safe.